Andrea, don't!
Back off, Dale.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. This is James, and in this video, let's talk about that one scene, one of my favorite scenes back in the early days of The Walking Dead. It was while the group was on Herschel's farm that Andrea mistakenly shoots Daryl Dixon. One of the shorts that I did a long time ago was the part where after Andrea shoots Daryl, they've got him and Glenn is like, is that ears he's wearing?
Look at him. What the hell happened? Look, he's wearing ears.
And when Rick sees Herschel coming, he quickly grabs him and puts him in his pocket. I think that's a really funny scene. Really, when you think about it, it's funny when Glenn asks, is that ears he's wearing? But what if Herschel had made it to them and Herschel said that? You know, you could just hear Herschel like, is that ears he's wearing? Because if you remember, Daryl and Rick hadn't become brothers yet. You know, it's still early on. Daryl even had his little camp way outside, farther away from everybody else, just by himself, isolated. So Andrea's on the lookout. You know, the group had made it to the farm. They found refuge there. Yeah, it was all because Carl got shot and stuff, but, you know, and they brought chaos to the farm. You know, the gunshot that brought the herd to the farm that destroyed it probably wouldn't have happened, you know, may not have happened if the group hadn't came. Herschel and his family would have lasted. You know, they may not have lasted a long, long time, but would have lasted even longer than when the farm was destroyed. And some of them could have made it, you know, but maybe not. Even Maggie. Maggie could have died if Rick had never made it to the farm. You know, how long would the farm had lasted? We don't know, but it should have lasted past what it did. It would probably not have been overrun by walkers, but people eventually, some bad people. But Rick's group did have a kind of safety amidst the chaos of the zombie apocalypse. But there was increasing paranoia. There was desperation. You know, they had dwindling resources, not medical, food and stuff. You know, they were always watching the water. There was an ever-present threat of walkers. Andrea, she was still grappling with that grief over her sister Amy's death and also struggling with her role in the group. And she's eager to prove herself. I think that's one reason why that she shoots Daryl thinking he's a walker. Daryl, of course, had been out looking for Sophia, and he had taken a horse. The horse had thrown him. He rolled down a hill. He was pretty banged up, and he definitely looked like it when he come out of those woods when Andrea spotted him. It is a tragic misunderstanding. She mistook him for a walker, and she shoots him. So definitely part of that was Andrea, you know, wanting to prove herself. And yeah, you can throw themes out there and stuff like the fine line between self-preservation and endangering those around you. You know, you see that a lot in the show. Of course, the entire search for Sophia, that's a whole big thing in itself. And Daryl always going to look for her, putting all of that work into that, believing she's out there. And you can see also at the end of the series, he puts the same and more, looking for his brother Rick. He goes into isolation. He spends a lot of time out tracking, trying to find Rick. He did the same for Sophia. Of course, with Shane and Lori and Daryl being isolated, the things between the different philosophies between Dale and some of the others in the group. You know, the farm should be a sanctuary to them, but there's a lot of internal conflict, misjudgment, and it kind of mirrors the chaos in the outside world. I mean, you throw a bunch of humans together. I'm going to get in trouble for saying that one day.
I don't want to wash clothes anymore, Dale. I want to help keep the camp safe. Is that all right with you?
So this scene also throws in a complexity of identity, if you want to call it that. Andrea is transforming from she was grieving her sister's death. She was a grieving sister wanting to die, you know, actually at the CDC, to wanting to become part of the group, wanting to become proactive, you know, be a defender. Daryl, he was helping the group there around the CDC, but by the time they got to the farm, he was a perceived outcast, kind of like he always was, even though he helped them out a bunch up to that point. But after that, he was becoming more of a valued group member. But Andrea's actions also lead to more tension and distrust, mainly with Dale. He's kind of been her mentor and moral compass. So Andrea's attempt to prove herself really ends up isolating her a little further. Daryl, he has a near-death experience. You know, he sees his brother and stuff hallucinating out there in the woods and everything. He does forgive Andrea.
If there's anything I can do...
You're trying to protect the group. We're good.
And we'll see him become more adaptable and integrated into the team. You know, back while watching this live, way back in the day, you know, thinking, you know, Daryl, he wasn't in the comic. You know, even though he's a cool character, he's possibly one of the most expendable in the group. He'll probably die. You know, it could be something as stupid as Andrea shooting him, and then there just all kinds of tension starts because of that. You know, I could see that kind of happening when I was watching. So when she shot and missed, and the ear thing, you know, the comical thing within that, you know, helped ease the tension that had built up right before it. And there might have just been a couple other times in that season, maybe the next season, that I thought Daryl might die. But of course, he became, you know, second to Rick as far as a main character. I would have never guessed that if you had have asked me right after this episode. If you'd have asked me, you think Daryl's going to make it to the end of the whole thing and maybe even be the main character toward the end, I'd have said no. It's funny how the fans act as far as what their favorite seasons, what their favorite episodes are and things like that. And everybody's got a little bit different opinion and stuff like that. And some people loved the farm. Some people hated the farm. I didn't mind the farm. There was some off, you know, scenes and maybe an off episode or something here and there. But overall, it had some pretty good character building, as far as not talking so much about Andrea just because of her writing. It was just, in my opinion, kind of bad all the way up until the point she died. If you're a really, really big fan of the show and you haven't read the comic, Andrea is a completely different person, and she's pretty badass. She's a pretty good character in the comic. I think you'd be surprised if you read the comic of how Andrea's character actually plays out. But this almost shooting, kind of sort of shooting of Daryl by Andrea, and the hiding of the ears, which was pretty funny. Just a quick look back at a scene on Herschel's farm. Man, it just seems so long ago now, and it's weird to think I was sitting there on a Sunday night watching this live at one point in my life, and actually recalling some of the thoughts that I had, you know, how I was thinking about some of the characters and stuff at the time. But hey, you guys let me know what you think about this scene, what you think about the season, you know, stuff like that. If you watched it live, if you watched it later, if you thought Daryl was going to make it as far as he has, you know, back then. Hey, you guys let me know what you think about it down in the comments below, and you know I'll join you there. This is James in Nashville. As always, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more dead stuff.
But hey, shoot me again, you best pray I'm dead.